The Lazy Peon.
What's up guys, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. Today we're going to be talking about the Arms Warrior. The Arms Warrior is currently the class that I play the most in WoW, simply because it has amazing damage output in PvP. It also has a lot of mobility and is incredibly fun to play. The Arms Warrior specialises in two-handed weapons and has a brutal, fast-paced feel to the Spec. You charge through the battlefield, smashing your enemies' faces to death with huge, unrelenting crits. Unfortunately, Arms has never been quite on par with Fury for overall damage output in a raid environment, which is a shame because I personally find it the most fun of the two specs. So let's take a look at the basic rotation and main damage dealing abilities used by the Arms Warrior. Before we start, you're going to want to make sure you're in battle stance. Then use Battle Shell and Charge to generate some rage when going into combat. First off, you're going to use Mortal Strike to put bleeds and reduce healing effects on the target. Then you're going to use Hamstring to slow the target down. Then use Colossal Smash so you can bypass that target's armour. Then you can use Thunderclap to reduce the target's damage. After this, you can then use Overpower and Slam to deal big damage. You should always make sure to keep Hamstring and Mortal Strike bleeds up on the target, otherwise you lose out on DPS, which is bad. You should also note to only use Slam when you've got a high amount of rage, otherwise you could find yourself in a position where you're waiting for Mortal Strike and Charge to come off cooldown before you can pick your damage back up. I'd recommend only using Slam when you're at 60 rage or above. For anything lower, use Overpower. So now let's take a look at the pros and cons of playing an Arms Warrior, starting with the pros. Number 1. You have great mobility through Heroic Leap, Charge and Innovate. This means you can always be at the centre of the action and stick to your target like a fat kid in a cake show. Number 2. Good defensive cooldowns. As an Arms Warrior, you have Die by the Sword, Shield Wall, Rallying Cry, Spell Reflect, Mass Spell Reflect, and the ability to switch to defensive stance. This means you can shut yourself down like a moving fortress if your healers are CC'd and you need to buy them some time to recover. Number 3. Your crits and burst damage can be huge. This adds to the fun, brutal feel of the spec, as if we're a berserking colossus overpowering our enemies with brute strength. Number 4. You're capable of good AoE damage from bleeds generated by Thunderclap, Mortal Strike and Bloodbuff. We also have Blade Storm, which is one of the most epic abilities in the game. Watch the enemy team get torn to shreds after you pop your cooldowns and unleash this beast while they're huddled together like lost sheep. Number 5. This spec is fun as hell due to everything I've mentioned previously. Warriors also look badass and have some very nice transmog sets available to them, so you can always have swag. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of the cons of playing an Arms Warrior. Number 1. Sometimes it can be hard getting on your target in PvP if they're a ranged class when your Heroic Leap and Charge is on cooldown. This is however a problem that most melee classes face. Number 2. Lack of CC. As a warrior, you have Intimidating Shout and Disarm as your two main CC abilities if you choose to go with Blade Storm and Bloodbath in your talents. Intimidating Shout is an 8-second fear on a 1 minute 30-second cooldown, and Disarm just greatly reduces your target's damage and stops some abilities from being used. You can choose to go with Shockwave and Stormbolt, each offering 4-second stuns on a 40-second and 30-second cooldown through your talents, but this means losing out on Blade Storm and huge damage increasing cooldown. I'd personally prefer to take the extra damage, although it's nice having the option for more CC if needed. Number 3. Raid DPS. Although the Arms Warrior is the damage king of Battlegrounds, in comparison to other classes, they're lacking far behind in DPS in a raiding environment. This means you'll probably have to spec Fury if you're serious about progression in a decent guild. This is a shame because of how fun Arms is to play. However, it's usually considered to be the warrior's PvP spec out of the three. Number 4. Although you have amazing burst as an Arms warrior, this can be easily countered by abilities such as Disarm or Roar of Sacrifice, which is a real buzzkill. Number 5. Arms warriors are easily affected by roots and stuns. If you're fighting a class such as a Frost Mage that can root you every few seconds, you're going to have a bad time. So, should you play an Arms warrior? Well, if you're into PvP, then hell yes! The Arms warrior has always been a dominant force in battlegrounds and arenas, and is really fun to play. It's also easy to learn. However, if you're into PvE and want to progress in raids, Arms probably isn't the spec for you due to its lack of raid DPS compared to other classes. If in the future Arms becomes more on par with the other classes in terms of damage, you should definitely give it a try. Okay guys, that's it for this video. I'd like to give a shout out to Bungo for giving me his second opinion on a few aspects of this video. If I forgot to mention something, leave it in the comments. Thanks for watching and check out some of these awesome WoW channels.